I am barging my way out of work. I got a notification at 11:30 this morning that my epic Warpath is waiting for me at my front porch. Hopefully my wife brought it inside, but we'll find out in an hour and a half. Anyways, I'm excited. Let's get ready to do an unboxing. Hey everybody, and thanks for joining me for this Let's Paint some epic Warpath Enforcers. I'm going to start off with a little bit of an unboxing, just really brief. The box is huge, so I wasn't really able to get it in camera. So I'm just going to go through a few photos that I snapped while I was unboxing it, explain what the contents look like, and we'll go from there. We'll jump right into the painting. So this is the big core box, has your rule book, your tokens, the free terrain packs, dice, all of that fun stuff. Nothing overly exciting here. We'll move on. This is the terrain box. I ordered both terrain packs, the regular and the extra large, so I have a lot of buildings to build, and I will get to them, and I will hopefully do content on them. But as I'm trying to race to get at least 2, if not 3 armies speed painted up for Michigan Grand Tournament, which at the time of this recording is in like 3 weeks, buildings are the last thing on my mind because I have a extensive backlog of drop zone commander terrain. This is the new anthology they released along with the Kickstarter. I'm read through Mesa, which was the first one, and I'm well into the second one. I'm probably a third of the way through the book. Fun read if you like the lore. All right, and here are the sprues for all the armies. So I did back all 8 factions. I received 6 of the 8. I'm still waiting on GCPS and Marauders. I'm just going to let these photos slide by so you can have a look at the sprues, and we'll go into more detail on the Enforcer sprue as we start up the Let's Paint. Lastly, I did back the acrylic tokens from the Kickstarter, and this is them just all sorted out and stored inside of a token silo from GameGenics. They're not a sponsor. I'm not paid to say this. I just really like their token bins, and I've kind of taken them over for every game that I play now. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into it. So this is the Enforcer sprue. You'll get 6 of these in your starter box or your Kickstarter box or however you get into the game. Really impressed with the quality of the plastics. I'm super happy with how everything looks. And snipping and assembly is going to take a lot of time. So you'll note on the sprues, they've released assembly guides, but everything is lettered. Some of the questions that I saw initially included how we knew what units went into what squads. So they'll be labeled like A1 through 4. So you'll know that anything A1 through 4 is going to be a squad of 4 on one of the 4 whole bases, and then if it's B1 and B2 and there's no others, it's a 2 unit or a 2 model unit. So that's just one of those little things to know. Mantic did get around to releasing the assembly guides for the first 4 factions. The second 4 factions are not out yet, but they're coming. So I'm just gonna let this play through, do some snipping, and get some stuff put together, and we'll jump into painting. When snipping my sprues, I just put each individual unit type into a little condiment tub. I nabbed at the dollar store. It was like $1.25 to get like 8 or 10 of them. So they're just little plastic containers with lids on them. Allows you to toss everything in one spot, get everything snipped and cleaned and together. Strongly suggest plastic cement if you're working with plastic sprues. Obviously, you're going to have to use super glue for the resin ones. And here we're looking at about an hour of putting stuff together, but a bunch of stuff assembled and ready to start hitting the paint table.
Well, with everything assembled, I've attached mine using double-sided tape, just some plastic strips I've had, but just something so you can keep them all together. I'm going to airbrush a black prime onto them. You could certainly brush a primer on or rattle can, whatever your preference is. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time showing you priming because we've all done it. Next up for me, as I'm trying to emulate my 28mm Enforcers, is a base coat of Paynes Gray. Again, you could put this through your airbrush. You could overbrush this with a dry brush. You could, I think there might be a rattle can, I'm not sure, but just base coating at this point. Keeping this at a higher angle, I want to keep the black shadow underneath if possible. Finally, a layer of white blue through the airbrush for me. Again, you could dry brush this on if you were doing it by brush, and you can spray a rattle can white, whatever your preference may be. This is the color scheme that I use for my 28mm Enforcers, so it's imperative for me to get this white blue almost laid down like a zenithal. I want it super bright at the top, and I want it to go ahead and fade down in the shadow towards the bottom. That's why I wanted to keep the Paynes Gray underneath. Now we're into the brushwork. So back to the Paynes Gray that I used for my initial base coat. I'm applying this to the undersuit, the knee gaps, the helmet, across the Enforcers. Painting in 10 mil is a little different than painting in 28 mil. You can certainly strain your eyes and stress yourself out trying to get the same level of highlights and details that you can get on a 28 or larger millimeter mini, but for a tabletop gaming model, it's not necessary. You want to focus on what's going to be seen at the table. So in this case, I want to hit that undersuit. I'm going to hit the weapon, helmet, any shoulder pads, that the kind of things that are going to pop out when you put them on the table. And a wash or speed paint is going to be a great tool here to really seep in and pop out those little details that are going to be a nightmare to try to do by brush. Now, don't get me wrong, there are people out there with the paint skill sets to make these things look amazing. I don't know that I'm one of those people, and I'm trying to work fast and get a lot of them out for the sake of being able to play at Michigan Grand Tournament. So this is kind of a how quick can I get something done that I think looks nice. Moving over to pinning the rifles. In this particular case, I was using Pro Acryl's transparent black. Throughout the course of going through the Army, I have used transparent black. I've used Pro Acryl's just coal black. I have used Apple Barrel matte black, because that's what I've ridden my bases with. And I have actually settled on using Army Painter Speed Paint Grim Black for the weapons. I feel like I get the best black while also still getting some highlights on the weapon. Again, this is totally a preference thing. Some of you might not even paint your rifles black. Box art is more of a tan. Personally, don't care for that. I like the black rifle, but to each their own. Now I'm going to switch over to Pro Acryl's Black Red. So this is to do the cross lines on the chest as well as paint the shoulder pads. I've seen some people not bother with lines on the chest. I really like the look of the 28 mil, so I wanted to make sure I transferred it over to the 10 mil versions. You just need to make sure that your paint is thin, and I think I'm using I think it's a 0 brush that I'm using to do this particular part. It's just, paint consistency, light touch, and fine point on the brush. And some of these turn out great for me, some of these turn out poorly for me. It's all a matter of just your brush control and your patience. I also question whether or not I should have taken the models and left them off the base for painting. Maybe just stuck them down to a platform so that I could better reach each part of the model, because I found that back guy in the 4-man group is always the hardest to reach when you're trying to get the undersuit or the rifle or do the details on them. So it's just what I've discovered working through the process. I apologize, I got really dialed in on painting the shoulder pads and spent most of the time off camera. Alright, so these guys are starting to come together for us, and I'm going to apply a wash to the models. I'm using Paynes Gray Wash by Acryl. I'm going to do 2 drops of wash to 1 drop of water just to mix it down a little bit so it doesn't kill the white of the armor, but it'll still be enough to bring out some of the details in the figure. Now I'm going to slather on some dark neutral gray. Whatever your preferred base color is probably a decent enough time to do it here. Moving on later in the process, I found that I was using texture paste basically to paint the surface of the base. I was using Acryl's dark gray, like concrete style fine texture paste. It's got like some sandy grit to it, so it gives you the color, plus it gives you some texture on the base. I managed to stay almost completely out of camera applying this. I have they're 6mm scatter terrain for a game called Full Spectrum Dominance by a creator named The Lazy Forger on my mini factory. I upscaled them 167%, so they're 10mm scale, and are using them on my bases for Epic, just to add some texture and variety and some details that are just like flat or texture pasted bases. Here is the coarse gray earth texture paste I just previously mentioned that I'm applying to the base. Again, almost completely off camera. I must have been in the home stretch and lost sight of what I was doing, so my apologies for this less than useful video portion. If you've seen any of my previous content, you'll know I'm a big fan of rimming that base. Black is my preferred. I use Apple Barrel Matte. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. I'm really excited for this game and to do more content for it. Epic scale is just my preferred gaming scale. I was a huge Drop Zone Commander fan. If you look back through my channel, you'll see a lot of content for that game. So to have an epic scale Warpath game is extremely exciting for me. I don't have a lot of really cool photos, and I know the video quality of this is probably not as high quality. This is all an amateur gig, so I'm just doing what I can to try to put content out there for the community and to help people who may have never painted this scale and just want to see it done and get some ideas on how to handle it. So if you found this useful, I really appreciate a like, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, I'd ask you to do so. I appreciate you watching this far, and thanks.